morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. It's very weirdly warm, but not I haven't been able to get comfortable in 2 days. A very weird sensation where it's hot, but also not hot. It's a very weird kind of thing to have to deal with. I'm not entirely sure what's causing it. We're here to talk about the third episode of The Last of Us, which may have been oversold to me. I'm not saying it's not great. This is the strongest episode of the show so far. But based on people who have seen the entire show, which I'm not one of them, it is the strongest. It is the strongest episode of the show. And it's one of the best hours of TV ever, is what I heard going into this, and I was like, alright, right on, let's see it. And it's great, don't get me wrong, this is a great episode. I just think it may have been overblown how good it is. Because the story's great, and it's kind of self-contained too, which is interesting. To do this story almost entirely self-contained within the hour, or hour 15 this episode was. Which led to some interesting choices. So this episode has Joel and Ellie going to, they're going out to Bill and Frank's house. Bill being this, he's a doomsday prepper, and he was ready for this to happen, and he was all set, and he had his stuff ready to go, and he had his, his little compound ready. Frank being his husband, and what happens is he has this place, he has it all set up, and he's living by himself. One day Frank comes along, stumbles into a hole, and that's not a literal hole in his yard, and then he gets rescued. I would have preferred that the assumption that the two of them make over them being gay was a little less Frasier-esque, because it feels reductive that it's oh, he plays the piano, oh, he knows what wine to pair with this meat, oh, he's gotta be gay. That feels reductive to me, that, but whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, if that's it, that's it. And probably that's also reflected in the game, which, again, haven't played this far in the game. So, the two of them are living on this compound, safe from the zombies, safe from raiders, and they've, grown a life together. Eventually, Joel and Tess, get in contact with them, and then they come and, they become friends, or, Bill refuses to admit he has friends. I mean, Bill, Nick Offerman is great, and this just feels like the dramatic version of Ron Swanson, who's also gay. It's he doesn't have friends, he has, acquaintances who he doesn't hate entirely. So he's, and Nick Offerman is putting on a great performance in this episode. But again, I mean, part of it feels like that he had 6 years of it on Parks and Rec to kind of nail down this kind of character. But either way, I don't want to reduce it. He does it well. So I think that the issue with how the characters are being gay, the relationship evolving was interesting to watch, and seeing them grow old was nice. And then for it to reach the end and it be, it's such a heartbreaking end for the two of them, where you get to the end and it's, what's it called? It's, they end up, they both, Frank is very seriously ill, and he's like, look, we're not going to be able to cure this now. They couldn't cure it then, we can't cure it now. So today's going to be my last day. We're going to do everything I want to do, and then I'm going to take all these pills, and I'm going to die. It's such a sad that end, and then to get to the end, and for it to be like, for Bill to make the choice to like, no, I'm gonna die too. Because my purpose was keeping you safe, and if you're dead, I don't have that anymore. Like, it is so well done, the entire episode, and then for Joel to get there a few days later, and after they've died, and for them to find the note that like, look, please don't go into the bedroom. It's probably not a pretty sight at this point. Just, let us have that. It is such a great, testament to the storytelling of this show, that they handled this well within this short amount of time that they had to do it. Because look, I would have watched an entire show of these two in the apocalypse and slowly coming to, getting to the end of their lives as things go on. That kind of tragic story is great. I just would have preferred that I didn't also see women talking and living in the same weekend. Oh shit, they got rid of the light. Alright. Fine by me. Because that was part of the issue, was the idea that, like, can I just get a fucking break to have something uplifting at some point this weekend? But didn't happen. Whatever. And then it took 3 episodes, but now we have the resolve of Joel and Ellie going out on their mission. It's like they're gonna go out to see Joel's brother, and that's gonna be their big adventure at this point. And I'm like, all right, right on. So it took to this moment for that, because it took the note where Bill's like, I'm gonna leave you everything and use everything you have here to keep Tess safe. And for him to see that, and then for it's like, oh shit, Tess died last episode, and now he's left with Ellie. It's like, that's the moment where he's gonna steal his resolve, and he's going to, he's gonna go out and have Ellie and protect Ellie that same way. And I think you need that based on where the show is going, which I won't spoil, because while I haven't played the game, I know how the game ends. So I did look it up out of curiosity. Way back, like 10 years ago, so even that could be incorrect. But the idea that, the idea of where this is going, and it's all kind of interesting to me, to see how this kind of all plays into it. Now we have everything's in order now, and everything's going out, and now we're going to have them going on their quest through the wasteland, and I'm all for this. I'll watch this, anytime. This episode is so great. And I think part of it is I just talked myself into it a little bit, and I think definitely part of it was last night when I was watching it. I was coming off of watching football all day after watching Living, and after having the experience at Best Buy, which was chronicled in the episode about Living. So I was already in a pissy mood, and then I was in a pissy mood about football because the early game was shit, and then the late game was, not terrible, but it's just terrible officiating all around. If you're an NFL fan, and you disagree with me on this, it's like, I don't care if you're a Chiefs fan or not. There are, the last call of the game, I get. That one you have to call. You can't let them take a shot like that on the quarterback out of bounds, but beyond that, it's just appalling what they called or didn't call in a good amount of these games, and both games had it where the officials heavily favored one team over the other, and it's ridiculous. But whatever. That's off topic. So I think after all of that, going in and then watching this, it kind of was like, well, I'm already in a pissy mood. But it's such a well-told story in an hour and 15 minutes. It's kind of just bookended with Joel and Ellie going on their mission to get Ellie to the Fireflies, and it's like, and the thing is too, it's like Ellie in the beginning asking about as it sounds, like for all that to happen, and then for them to get to the end, and like, and the other thing was like like there was a moment very early on in the episode, which on one hand I kind of understand, on the other hand I'm like, all right, we get what you're doing. It's a little ham-fisted though. Like, there is a moment early on in the episode where they kind of like look directly into the camera about COVID, and it's like, so what? One day everyone was, just, crowding on airplanes and doing what the other thing was, and then the next day we had a global pandemic. We weren't prepared for a pandemic, and it's like, all right, I get it. I'm looking at, I get what you're doing here. I get what you're doing here. I don't think we necessarily need that. But that's one hand. On the other hand, like the original game, The Last of Us, came from a pre-COVID world. It was 7 years before COVID. It was 2013, if I remember correct. This game came out, and the issue was that it would be weird if they didn't modify things in the same way that like we talked about it with like when we do the Star Wars podcast, Josie and I, we've talked about getting the chance to rewrite. Or have we talked about that yet? Maybe we have. Maybe I talked about it on here. I don't know. I read Outbound Flight, and I definitely thought about this, because I read Outbound Flight again recently, and then after reading Outbound Flight, after reading Thrawn Ascendancy, gives you a sense of, oh, this is the power of the rewrite. This is the power of, we get a second chance to tell this story and map it out, where knowing what we now know about the Aristocra, of the Ascendancy, and all of that, and how that works, with the expansion within, what was that other one? With the expansion within Thrawn Ascendancy over the course of a trilogy, like, it makes Outbound Flight feel like, a first draft, because it's like, a lot of the things that are there were changed, or modified, or adjusted, which are just three words for the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing, but, slightly different. And I think you get kind of the same thing here, where it's like, look, we're getting a chance to retell this story. We're getting a chance to, with the benefit of we now know how people react in a global pandemic, adjust the story in a way that, had they kept things the way they were, it would have felt more traditional to a zombie story. And I think that, having the opportunity to rewrite, if you will, what the original story was, to match, what was largely a massive, it basically was a massive sociological study of how people will react in that situation. And if you're going to take that and not use it, I feel like that's a misplay. That said, the dialogue's a little on the nose. And I feel like that's kind of something that needed to be, addressed a little bit. I was hoping for more backstory about the origin of the virus. Or the fungus. We got a little bit of that with it was fungus, so it was in it was probably in something that people use, every day, like a flour or with some kind of pancake or cookie mix or something like that. So that way it got into the entire world supply at one time, so it couldn't be, slowly combated. And it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. I get that. It's an interesting kind of way to address the issue at hand, which is how because that was a question I had too when I was watching the pilot, and considering it is a fungus that needs to be spread by biting or anything like that. The idea that how did it spread so rapidly to the entire population all at once? And it's besides the fact that there's exponential growth on a virus, or in this case a fungus, I guess that it would be it is the idea that it was spreading through the food supply answers that question. I think that they did that very well. But I think we'll wrap up there for today. What else have we got this week? We're going to catch up on National Treasure. We are going to, because now there are going to be 3 episodes of National Treasure to watch. There is going to be Knock at the Cabin. We have an episode about Old, going up tomorrow for 30-minute reviews. The M. Night Shyamalan movie, because we have a Knock at the Cabin this week. We also have, I'm looking for anything else to watch, but if there is nothing else, maybe 80 for Brady later this week, because I really don't want to see 80 for Brady. It's the kind of thing where it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't look very entertaining. I'm going to do an episode about Hi-Fi Rush as well this week. I don't have that on the calendar, which if you go to multipleworldproductions.com/calendar, you can see the calendar of events that are upcoming. I was gonna, it's not on there because I didn't know I had a Game Pass PC, what's it called, a PC Game Pass, what was the word I'm looking for here, a PC Game Pass, free trial, and that you can get Hi-Fi Rush on PC Game Pass, so I did get that, and I'm really enjoying it. We're also going to do the last half of that 90s show at some point in the near future, and we'll do a catch-up on Poker Face, the Peacock show from Ryan Johnson and Natasha Lyonne. I think that just about covers it. What else could there possibly be? I feel like I'm missing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe next week the Cosmic Shake. Who knows? We'll see. But until then, have a great rest of your week.